were being hunted down and killed, and apartheid was at its most rigid and most absolute. Now, just as in the United States, the problems are different, and the solutions are different, and they're not as dramatic, and so it's difficult to get people to give.
Maybe one more.
My name is Olu Baker. I'm a student of the Center on Philanthropy. I was at Morehouse College when the issue of reparations was a hot topic, and I heard you speak of reciprocity, and I want to know what you feel your idea of reciprocity and reparations fits into philanthropy.
Very good. I'm glad you asked that, and that's a good question on which to end. When Desmond Tutu, former Archbishop Desmond Tutu, who chaired the Truth and Reconciliation Commission in South Africa, talks about reconciliation, he reminds us that there is a continuum that leads to reconciliation. We look at the South African model and we romanticize the forgiveness. He says there has to be forgiveness, but there also has to be restitution. And he has been saying in the last couple years, every time you give him an opportunity to speak, that until people who have no homes, who live in hovels, until people who have no jobs have jobs, until people who have no adequate place to live have adequate places to live, we can kiss reconciliation goodbye. Now, the restitution part is not what we talk about when we talk about South Africa. We talk about the forgiveness part, how wonderful it is. But here is the man we quote most often, and use as the model of reconciliation, saying that unless there is some form of restitution, we can kiss reconciliation goodbye. Now, here's what I think about reparations. I think that the word reparation has become so emotional that the word itself has become an impediment to a discourse about what it is you want to achieve. It has become an impediment to doing what you want to do. And so I think we almost need a new language that seeks to achieve the goals that reparation would achieve. But to talk about reparations is to turn people off. And if people shut you off before you get a chance to communicate, then you're defeating your purpose. And so I am all for the development of some kind of a reconstruction and development fund to which the business community contributes, to which the government contributes, and to which those African Americans who are doing well contribute. If you want to call that reparations, then you can call it that, but I'd rather talk about reconstruction and development. The other thing I would say about the reparations debate is that much of the focus is on the legacy of slavery. I like to talk about the legacy of segregation. The legacy of segregation, which was an intentional underdevelopment of a people. And I think you can make the case and be more persuasive in getting people to understand that legacy than the legacy of slavery. Oh, I don't want to, I was on a panel with John Hope Franklin, the great historian, and we were talking about reparations at a law school. And I said what I've said, and John Hope said, and he's 92 years old, and he said, you know, the problem with that is that I like the passion in the word reparations. and can you give me a word that conveys the same passion that I feel when I talk about reparations? So I understand the problem of my speaking about a new language, but I'm a practical person. I want to achieve things. And I think if we're going to achieve something, we can't turn off the discourse by the language we use. And that's the point I'm making. I think Randall Robinson, in his book, The Debt, makes a great contribution to our understanding of why there ought to be this kind of a restitution, why there ought to be this Reconstruction and Development Fund. And for those of you who are African Americans who are doing reasonably well, I really believe that if African Americans contributed to this fund, it would help to create a national will to get other people to contribute to this fund. And so I like to talk about a new notion, not reparation, but a new fund that would be created that could be used for education, that could be used for business development and job creation, but a fund that recognizes the debt that is owed to this group of people who are still the victims of the legacy of segregation. Thank you very much.
Just again, like to thank everyone for coming out on this evening. Truly, we have heard a very inspiring message, and we look forward, hopefully, to having the ambassador back at some point. He has a very, very, very busy schedule, but we certainly look forward to having him back again. Thank you, and have a great evening.